My name is Calvin Jutting. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to come and hang out with you guys tonight and talk about the work that we've done on the Mingo Repeater. I know a little bit of it's kind of showed up on the groups IO for the club and kind of the services we've added and revamped and all that kind of stuff. So as Clint said, he approached me to, come on, click. There it goes. Oh, too far. I talked to you guys about kind of where we've been and what we've been up to. So kind of just, again, quick introduction. I actually am under 2 years working on my extra now. Got my general, I don't know, mid last year sometime. I don't know. Klaus, do you remember when I got my general? Oh, good. Oh, good. I remember to put that in. So I actually updated this because I started this a few weeks ago. I put extra, I'm thinking about it. And then I had to actually update that to put in progress. So I at least thought to think about that. So I'm just really all around nerd. I got into ham way late in life. A couple years ago, we went out to our annual sales conference where 22,000 of my closest friends embarked on Vegas. And we were messaging up and down the strip the entire week with Meshtastic. And at the end of the week, we're all like, you know, what's next? What's next? And the advice we got was find your local ham club because that's what's going to keep you interested. Go get licensed, do all that kind of stuff. And so that's what I did. Didn't have much luck in my area. We have a small club. It was not easily found, but found our Discord group, found SCARC, found a bunch of other clubs to get engaged with. And so I wound up getting my technician license. Wasn't quite ready for my general. I knew that that was going to be an endeavor. So I got put in touch with a guy in Mingo, Wayne Bale, and knew he had an aging repeater, needed some TLC, needed some love. And that's how this whole giant adventure really began. So and the time, that's my youngest, Libby. We get her on the radio reluctantly. She was kind of interested in it. We find that she doesn't care for POTA because she doesn't like the fast-moving context. But you may hear her occasionally on VHF or UHF because she does enjoy the conversation. So let's see. We can move forward. So meet K0IRO Mingo Iowa, the first of our repeaters. To start out with, I got a hold of Wayne. Actually didn't get his number. I wrote him a letter and said I would be really interested in talking to you. I put a stamp on it. I dropped it in the mail and never thought I'd get a call back. And about 2.5 weeks later, he called me back and said, I'm so glad to got your letter. I would love to have you, come out and talk about it. And we'll get you a key. We'll get all of that. He was so excited. He had a key already cut that day, ready for me to come out and meet him and just kind of start looking at stuff. So it was a mess. I don't know how to put that nicely. It was a little messy. I don't know how we got here, and in a lot of ways, I don't know if I really care how we got here, but we had a lot of upfront cleaning. The cage for the tower was quite messy. We ripped a lot of trees and vines and mess. We also had a club mascot who unfortunately I believe met his demise somewhere along the way as we were cleaning out, but clearly he had been in there long enough that he was comfortable scouring around the outer frame of the shack without much worry. So little bit about this tower up front. It was originally built up front as a State Patrol relay station. And you're going to have to forgive me. I've got bits and pieces of the history, so I'm going to tell you what I know. And if someone knows how to bridge the gap in what I don't know, well, come find me and help me bridge the rest of that gap. It was a 300 feet tower, which actually is more 295, so they could kind of stay out of the FAA and FCC requirements of the day. This was erected in like the 70s and the 80s, where the 300-foot requirement was the ceiling before the FCC dropped it to 200 in 2018. So we kind of got away with it. It was a State Patrol relay station. We relayed from what I can assume was Malcolm, which I believe I found my site's sister right next to the chicken farm, which is wonderful, let me tell you. And then this relayed what I can assume was over to Des Moines and then down south to Red Rock based on what was written on the hard line from what we'd found. This was also done in the day where like 2-wire and 4-wire were not really prevalent. So RF to RF to RF was really the cat's meow of the day. I I kind of had to add the what was I thinking because we looked at the inside of that. It was a mess. You were there early on. It was not great. So some additional pictures and stuff like that. They had the combined folded dipoles. They had a couple Quintrons out there. The state for the Quintron, that was part of the state stuff that they had. And then as I understood and dealt with it more as they negotiated with the state to use the premise and use the farm property for the tower, I think Wayne's dad actually told us, if you want to put this up, you're also going to put up an amateur repeater while you're at it. So, which aligns with the cabinet that you see here. It has a whole bunch of 6-7 markings, which is our repeater now. So I think that was part of the old negotiation. All I remember is that they had some checking account sitting off nowhere. They got $500 a year as the lease for the site, the tower, and the guys came out there and made sure the generator ran every once in a while and cleaned up a few things. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Woohoo, good job, Paul. So eventually that Quintron gave out, and then they ended up settling on a VHF Bridgecom, which is what actually still is the 6-7 machine today. We've just added a few extra things like All-Star, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Tony, N0NI, over in Jefferson, they actually climbed the tower long ago. They were doing packet contesting. That radio still works to this day. In fact, I caught him at DMRA last year, or the night before the actual Hamfest. And the words out of his mouth was, "Are you kidding me? This thing is still there?" It's like, yeah, it was actually on until I turned it off the other day. No kidding? That thing still ran? Yeah. And the Yagi's still up there? Yeah. Awesome.
That was the packet cluster?
That was the packet that they were using to do all that packet contesting long ago. Well, the Yagi for this one points east. So. Oh, did you guys go up to Malcolm too? Nice. Yep. Yep. Fun to see. And actually, I still have the radio and still use that KPC3. It works great. Not sure how old it is, but at this point, I don't care. It works wonderful. Still works wonderful. Let's see. Do I have okay. So as we started working on it, really kind of our phase one was clean it up, right? Get that old junky desk out of there. Get some of the other just general trash and stuff like that that had kind of accumulated over the years. We also knew we wanted to establish some network connectivity. I know we had talked kind of early on with a couple folks that we'd throw some cameras up there. That way, if we wanted to look at like incoming weather, create a time lapse or any kind of that stuff, put some Mesh-tastic up, play around with it and just see what we couldn't do with the site, right? So a gentleman by the name of Nathan came over and did the tower climb for us. Put on the cameras, the Mesh-tastic node to get started. I established the network and kind of cleaned out some of the just general stuff and organized stuff that was just needed to be moved around. Keep some of the Quintron stuff that we thought we might revive at some point, or Wayne wanted to revive to a degree, and we just kind of got it out of the way. It still had the original fluorescent tube lights. You remember those? Yeah, it still had the fluorescent tube lights, which you could actually not see anything. We ripped those out promptly and put in some shop lights, internet. We added, I put a Diamond X50A about 80 feet in the air off the side of the tower in hopes that we could do some APRS and eye gating out of that. Was an interesting adventure. I started out with BPQ32 to run on Windows, use that KPC3 to ingest as in KISS mode for packet, and it worked-ish. It favored the east side of the state. Let's see. Oh, we did All-Star in this round too. We added All-Star node and hams over IP. Since we have internet directly out there, we have a cellular-based internet connection out there. We opted to put All-Star Link directly in the shack instead of doing a remote shot from somewhere else. The thought being, I really wanted to get less and less things dependent on my house. That way, if I ever lost power or lost internet, this could still remain a freestanding working entity that people could use, even though I'm kind of sitting dead in the water. Kind of deratio nightmares. When we had our deratio, we were out with power for 7 days because the little old lady 1 street over couldn't get the tree off the line fast enough. Not her fault. I get it. I understand that, but that still left our entire neighborhood 7 days without power, and that kind of sucked. So phase 2, okay, good. Phase 2, that Bridgecom repeater was actually just hanging out, sitting in the rack, the one of that Quintron rack, and they put long screws so it didn't push forward. It didn't fit in the rack. It was just a mess. So we moved it out of the rack, and we recabled the coax from the hard line in. We added an RCOM controller. We were going to use that Yagi for another link radio to another direction. So we'd have a digital type add-on in All-Star, but then we'd have an RF link somewhere if we really wanted to do that. I think I got a little overzealous personally in my original thought process and design of what I wanted to do, because as is evolved, we never did the link radio. The physical RF link radio. We've really done everything by All-Star. And so far, I think it's worked out very well. People have been able to All-Star to All-Star for other nets, or dial in and use it remote, like when they're traveling. Lots of different options, but that original RF we kind of dumped. We dumped that idea. The other thing we did with All-Star is I wrote some custom scripts based out of Python. That will go pull the weather from the National Weather Service, and then it will generate the string of, this is a repeater, this is the time, here's the weather for today. If it's in the evening, it will say, here was the weather right now, but then here's weather for tomorrow. And that was an evolution for us, because the RCOM was actually doing some of that up front with, this is the repeater, this is the date, this is the time, and then would call it off. But having the power of All-Star and being able to use the digital footprint of that to do things like weather, net. I found a great place online that will do natural speech generation, 11labs.com, to be able to have some of those more static voices. But then All-Star has a very beautiful, very well-written note inside, or a voice inside, that you can give it full speech to text and it'll puke it out. In fact, I'm waiting for the day where, good morning K0GR on the way in. You're waiting for that one? So I really think at that point, I know if you look at the first part of this picture, there was the 2 bridge comms, the controller, the power supply for the controller and all that. What you really see here on the right side of this picture is really what we've evolved to today. And I really attribute that to my eyes got bigger than my stomach. I had all these glorious plans, but then this is where we landed, and we're perfectly happy with where we landed. So we got this. Now we move on again. And I wish I would have made that bigger. I'm really sorry. So climb number 2. We had climb 1 row. You saw the pictures. That's where we added the cameras. That's where we added the mesh tastic. Climb number 2. Nathan, N0ZYC, great climber, by the way. He's mine first. Don't call him, please. I sent him all the way to the top. We sent him to the 300 foot. We were going to replace the light, and we were going to add a VHF and a UHF antenna to the very top. The goal being to kind of extend our footprint on VHF, but we also wanted to establish a UHF. Long ago, and I probably should have led with this, and I'm sorry, we actually had DMR on the 2 meter side. That was the original implementation of it. The kit was bought from Bridgecom to have the little Raspberry Pi, the MMDVM board from Repeater Builder. At some point, the internet between the house and the shack gave up, and DMR fell by the wayside. The other part that I'm told that people struggled with was that having the encode and decode PL tone on the radios, we had quite a few folks that couldn't grasp or wouldn't grasp. I don't know what the right adjective is here, but either way, they got really frustrated and upset at the DMR tone on the analog side of the radio because they didn't have the PL tone on the decode side. So in a lot of ways, it just fell off. People forgot it was there. People were happy it was gone. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. We're not going to reestablish that. We'll put up a UHF repeater. 1, it'd be nice to have a little more UHF coverage in this area. 2, most of the state of Iowa actually is UHF for DMR. And Chris, you'll tell me if I'm lying, right? Okay, good. I knew the man who'd know would call me out if I was lying on that one. But if you do look at the DMR list, very predominantly coverage, DMR is done over UHF. I really think we were the strange unicorn. We're in Iowa. Yeah. We're in Iowa, so we're good. I'll stick with Iowa. We'll thank Motorola for UHF DMR. Is that kind of the standard out of it? But either way, I really wanted to reestablish DMR in the area. Really, the DMR for us is predominantly hotspot only. Marshalltown's DMR has been hit and miss for reasons that I'm sure they have, and then really kind of the closest I get is either downtown Des Moines or the nice SLR machine they have in Grimes. Which, I mean, I can hit the one in Grimes, that's fine, but still, it was nice to even be within, HT range of a, DMR repeater. So Nathan went up, we reestablished UHF and VHF on the top, got the repeater builder card from Scott. I wanted to do, and since we had network established, I really wanted a self-contained deal. And I burnt out the original MMDVM by being stupid and plugging it into the wall and plugging it into the repeater as it was powered by that little wall wart board that Scott sells underneath his hat. So I didn't want to ever go down that path, but I also didn't want another wall wart plugged in. So wedged in between there, I have a Raspberry Pi, a PoE hat with pins that actually extend past, and then the MMDVM hat on the top of it yet too, all in one custom deal. I had a guy at work help me build a custom top for that case, so that way it would kind of wedge around the board and keep everything self-contained. Bottom right-hand corner, so there's the Bridgecom, there's the UHF sister to my VHF, cans and all of that. So that was the trip. That was a long day. I think Nathan finally jumped off the tower about 7 o'clock. It was dark. That was a very, very long day. Let's see here. So we kind of started, we had alluded to this early on. I want to talk about it. So I'm calling this APR V1 and Packet V0 because mostly it was not really Packet. We had not really gotten any of that established. So we had started out as a MaxTrack 300, a little industrial PC that's right there on the top. Oh, you can see it even better up here. and then a Diamond X50A on the west side of the tower. So at 80 feet, we were still hearing quite a bit at that level, but there's definitely a lot of favor for the west side of the state. We were also getting a lot of relays off from W0AK down on Park Avenue. It worked. I need to spend some quality time. I kind of gave up on it, but BPQ32 is a Windows-based program. Some guys wrote it. It will do BBS, APRS, actually act as a windmail server. It's a well-rounded piece of software, but it's still all config file generated and config file managed, and you got to find their very specific format. But what I struggled with is the N by N wide of APRS. So about the only thing I could ever actually get working was like 2x1. So if someone had 2x2 or 1x1 or 1x2, you were just SOL. I wasn't gonna hear anything. I wasn't gonna do anything with it. I wasn't gonna iGate it to the internet. It was just messy, and I gave up. Also with that, we had no good way of really splitting. I knew we wanted to do, eventually do, WinLink and some other stuff like that, but also didn't, want to share the same frequency as normal APRS for WinLink type traffic. So first iteration, we got it off the ground. We added a lot of great coverage to the state for where there were gaps. And, I was happy-ish. I could be happier, right? And that is where we evolved to now APRS v2 and packet v1. I kind of joked. Does everyone remember? Let's see, the Star Trek 3, the search for Spock when they're coming back into space Spock, the Excelsior. My friends, the Great Experiment. Let that play in your head for just a minute, okay? My friends, the Great Experiment. That's really what this was. So APRS, I took and reused the MaxTrack 300 that we started with. I was gifted a MaxTrack 100, which is just a 2-channel MaxTrack, 50 watts, 40 watts. It was a great little radio, worked. I could program it. I didn't need to waste 16 channels on APS. There's 2. There's the normal 144.39, and then whatever the other frequency is around the area that they use for special events and stuff like that for races. We moved from the TNC, the Cantronics, to a WX3N1 Mini, which is a purpose-built APRS gateway and iGate, a Digi and iGate. There was an easy button to that. Unfortunately, it's almost too easy of a button. So like peeling out data, doing some of the custom metrics, really kind of digging in much past the basic is pretty lacking. If all you want is the simple Digi and iGate, perfect, worth the $140 you'll spend on it. I think the other one's a couple hundreds. The actual full WX3N1 is a little bit more, but the Mini did exactly what we wanted it to do. So we rebuilt the shelf that had that, added the WX3N1, plugged in the network. We also rebuilt the actual WinLink gateway. And this is the Noble Experiment. This is the Great Experiment, the 2 cans tied together. Those are just 2 individual VHF cans. Sat out in the garage one night in the cold, just tinkering around with them. Just a normal T, couple normal T's on top of the can, everything tied together. And I built my own pseudo accept reject. Jim, W6GRE, and I spent probably almost 2 hours out at the shack one afternoon putting some of this stuff in and getting the rest of it going. And we tried every permutation of trying to get the 2 radios to talk to each other and crosstalk to each other. And so far, it's not. It's 144.39 on the APRS side, and we duped over with the east side of the state. It's 145.610 for the packet, and everything is just far enough that nothing crosses over, at least nothing that we can tell. No one's ever complained. No one's ever said anything. So I've never actually taken the cans to the service monitor. I just tuned them with my VNA, which I'm going to hope is just close enough. I suspect if I hooked them up to an actual like great service monitor, it would be, we're talking like government work close. So hopefully would not have too much extra or not to do that. So that was a great experience. What did we learn? I learned that you are a putz when you put APRS at 275 feet. You cover a lot of ground, whether you'd like it or you don't. And I still laugh to this day, and that I think we're helping out a lot of great coverage areas that are barren. And we're unfortunately, and we recognize we probably are stepping on a couple that aren't helpful. But hey, if I'm not helping you, could you at least just give me a call and yell at me? No one's yelled at me as of yet, so I'm rolling with that. It's kind of hard to see, but that's 80. There's 35. We were seeing direct packets all the way up to Mason City, all the way down to the Missouri border. Direct hits off from that. It's kind of tapered off a little bit. I know now we're seeing probably 1 hop, 2 hop. Now with that, I think some of the APRS has kind of worked its way out. I don't know, self-healing is the right word in that, but when the huh?
Maybe the can drifted a little bit.
Our club mascot might have actually gotten in there and moved a few things. So yeah, we again putting the accept reject frequencies, that great noble experiment worked, I think, to our favor. We did add a lot of APRS coverage and eye gating that had been, I would say, maybe severely lacking in the past. There's certainly great pockets of coverage there, but now we've got, I think, a lot of great coverage. Could probably afford a few more up north. My hope is maybe we can work with a few people and convince them to add to their towers up north, but that's another venture. Along with the packet, that is the original Motorola 300 that we started with. Thought maybe we'd kind of roll through the channels, have different options and stuff like that if we needed to collect, maybe retransmit somewhere down the road, but that is the 300. Behind that is a Rim Light 9600, the specific 16-pin board that Scott sells from Repeater Builder. I call it the 9600 because he has 2 versions of that. One is a normal sound card. You can use it for All-Star. You can use it for other things. But then he has a slightly modified board that is meant for the 9600 data type traffics, like VARA. So our WinLink gateway that's out there is supposed to be VARA only, but Sound Modem is on there emulating AX25, and it's gotten a ton of use. Like more than static that we put it up, and I know I think I've seen Kloss use it, and that's worked. Maybe did you use it direct? Oh, okay. There's a few around. I know John W0JW down in Turo uses it all the time. That 275-foot coverage really adds to the WinLink coverage and the ability to get in and out and around. What's next? I vowed about this time last year that we were done, and I should have just shut my mouth because I knew I should have known better. At this point, I think we've really hit critical mass for this site. I don't think there are many other things we can add other than just maintaining and making sure that what's out there is continuing to function as expected. We've toyed around with maybe running a long wire out there and maybe some HF WinLink. We've had a couple people laugh and say you should put a flex out there and rent airtime, those kind of things. I mean, we are out in the literal, I call it the armpit of 330, 65, and I-80. I mean, you kind of look at where we're at. I mean, just right there in the armpit of 330 and F24 and F27. So I think we will add. I don't foresee us adding any more UHF, VHF. If anything, we'll probably just maintain that. We might switch some services down the road. We might move DMR down to another place. We might add another All-Star. Right now, it's really pretty much in the air, kind of what we can do, but it's certainly out there. And I threw this in there because it's actually kind of fun. We'd love to take on another site. I think this one's done. It's kind of one of those, hey, someone who needs the repeater needs a little love, let us know. Questions, comments, concerns? Get out of the room.
No. I got them.
Thanks for doing it. It's great.
Yeah. So local ham, I think it stays pretty busy. I think it just varies on the time of day. I think a lot of people find it being used, during their trip to and from work. We've had a couple of hams randomly find us with All-Star and dial in via All-Star and call out. That's been pretty infrequent overall, but the connectivity is there that we could. We've partnered with the Perry Club every now and then, and we'll connect All-Star to All-Star. They have another node there in Perry to just kind of extend their net out, but it's definitely local RF is the predominant use. Mostly people that have known that we put a lot of good time and effort into it. I think part of my foundational problem I have right now at 300 feet and also having the high ground and elevation for some of these places, I have great ears to hear. I don't think I have a good mouth to reach back out and scream back out, if you will. So one of our desires this spring and this summer is to acquire a 100-watt capable repeater and then work through what is the right distance that we're not going to put it up 100 watts. But what is that magical number? Because right now I end up at 50 watts at the backside of that repeater. That's it. I got nothing else. I am at my maximum capacity of the output of that repeater. So is the nice mouth to ear ratio 75 watts? Is it 80 watts? That's something we're going to want to experiment with this summer to better understand how we can kind of get our footprint back out a little further yet too. So I think we'll always be RF. I think we'll always have a lot of RF local users. I think All-Star for us will be predominantly a link further away. So like an eastern side of the state or a western side of the state to bridge a significant gap where RF wouldn't naturally bridge that.
I used it a couple weeks ago.
You did?
The Pottawatomie County Aries group wanted to demonstrate some capabilities to their emergency manager. So I went out to the State Emergency Operations Center. They dialed their system into Mingo, and we had a conversation on a radio, just like they were down the road from me.
I found something out, by the way.
Okay.
One of the guys had grabbed his hotspot from the truck, his All-Star hotspot, and that was connected to his cell phone data plan.
Oh yeah, I knew they do.
I did not know that until we talked to him on Saturday. We talked to the guys from Council Bluffs, and
they told me later they were not using a repeater; they were using a hotspot.
Yeah,
but they couldn't get the DMR repeater to work either
right.
for whatever on their end. So,
but the fact that and I'm hoping not going to stand on my soapbox too tall or too long, but like that's where like All-Star gets super efficient. How it handles the voice to IP traffic is super efficient. That running it off from a cell phone data plan, you'd never know.
And the audio on All-Star does not sound like DMR at all. It sounds natural, like the repeater. It comes through at the same level. You can't tell that it's a link versus like a DMR or a System Fusion or D-Star. It sounds like a digital signal.
Yeah.
So. Close enough.
Okay, so I understand you've got two VHF arrays up on the tower. Is that right?
Unfortunately, yes.
So are you using a conventional setup with a duplexer and one antenna, or are you running split antennas on?
That antenna is a messed up prodigy of the 80s. I cannot remember what that was, but those four actually have a combiner in the middle to look like 8.
I think they're DB224s.
I have to call Les. Les has the presentation on what those were, but those were a thing that came out of the 70s and 80s. They put combiners and they put all that stuff. Like if I ever try to separate those, I might as well just take them down and throw them, because without them combined the way that they are, they're useless.
In combined, both arrays are combined into one antenna
Uh-huh.
with a phasing array of some kind.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So up on the top of the tower, and John, I appreciate you bringing this because I forgot to mention this. So the VHF repeater, we moved to a DB222 at the very top. So our VHF, the 6.7 machine, is actually at 300 feet for the antenna right next door to the UHF. So if you look at the legs on it, on the west leg there is the UHF, and on the southeast leg is the VH, or the, yeah, you get what I'm trying to say. The folded dipoles, the 8 of them at 275, that's actually what APRS and Packet are hooked up to. So that's when I say I was kind of a putz about it. That was 275 feet versus the 300 where we have the VHF and UHF today. The brackets are not the greatest. They've been up there so long that I cannot really clamp them down any tighter. And a good stiff breeze of wind, they'll start moving around. And you saw that in kind of one of the very first picture. The lower half was wrapped all the way around. We've since moved that. That second climb on the way down, Nathan repositioned those so they're out. But even the top pair's already moved again. It was pointing north, and now it's more northeast than anything. And there's nothing I can do except clamp them down or replace the clamps. And I really don't loathe dealing with that at 275 feet.
Yeah, we discovered that when I flew it with my drone.
We did.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Correct. Yep. There's there's actually 4 hard lines up there today. The 3 that the state originally ran, and then I believe the extra one that they ran for the amateur side of the repeater that they installed during that day and age. And so there is one line that runs up. I have a 4-pack of cans for the VHF side, just smaller of the, or bigger of the UHF, I guess. Sorry, I didn't put a picture in there, but yeah, just 4 cans, 2 in, 1 out.
Say 4 kilowatt VHF into one antenna. But those combiners were on the ground and one hard line.
Right.
Power.
I really need, so I guess Les has a WA0C has a presentation that they did at DMRA from like the 80s kind of thing that explained how that thing worked. But it was kind of a brainchild of a ham in that era that took those folded dipoles, combined them in however they combined them. I don't even know what the combiner looks like because it's in a sliver of PVC. I mean, the next
is it's actually just a dumb coax T, and the
Yeah.
coax is literally exactly the same length, so that they're in phase.
Yeah.
So they're looking 2 different directions most likely.
Yep.
And you can just put a phasing harness in there to do that.
Yep. It's a phasing harness.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a phasing harness.
I even knew it probably-
No, if you think of his name, you're going to be exactly right. You'll be exactly right. It was a brain product of that era.
And all of the coax for the phasing harness runs through PVC elbows,
Uh-huh.
like weirdly.
Yeah, I've got this like little like 45 elbow where they hit it up in these little elbow things, and it was partly, and it's tied up just enough that it's actually pointed down so I don't get water in it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That sounds really familiar. So if he's still out there and I just badmouth, okay, whew. Because I'm really bad mouthing his antenna design, and I suppose I'll pay for that somewhere along the way. So I'm really sorry. I owe him an apology from the great beyond. That thing is horrible. That is a giant pain in my butt.
Well, at the time, it had a purpose.
It had a great purpose at the time. Oh yeah, yeah. I can't say. I think it's one of those like, there's no right or wrong answer here. There's just my opinion, and I solely acknowledge that it is mine and mine alone. Please don't take it as the gospel. That's my mine and mine alone. They're still good.
Okay.
They're still good. We had it at, and I don't know who did it, but somebody did us a favor at one point. They left the pigtails off the hard line. So everything was still sealed when they took whatever was on there off. And so the pigtail actually just got nasty along the way. So when we put up the UHF and the VHF, we never actually had to crack the hard line at all. It was still all good. We've thrown the meter on it. SWR is in great shape. Power output's great. They've really stood the test of time.
Yeah, it's inch and
I think it's an inch. The three in the original I think are inch and 7/8, and then the extra that they ran for the amateur I think is probably an inch or less. 7/8, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the three original, the state did not spare any expense on the original 3 hard lines that went up. Yep. Yeah, these were big. These are good size chunks. Huh? I'm not sure we can afford it today, Pat. I don't think all of our salaries combined in this room, I'm not sure we can still afford 300 feet of hard line.
Waterloo Tower, which was 400 feet, I believe. They had, I believe, 7/8 for all the VHF feeders there, all 3 of them, as well as the 2 ham ones that are up the top.
Yeah.
But that's all been swapped out now and
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I can't imagine that pretty penny of that hard line would cost today. I'm just thankful that it survived, or that still stood the test of time and it was usable, because we had not, in our first kind of initial climb that Nathan went up, we surveyed as far as he went up. So we really took a gamble on the hard line. So the 3 original hard lines from the state, the Yagi that points to the east is on one of the legs. The new UHF and the new VHF is on one of those legs. And then the smaller hard line is where the 8 dipoles land for the packet and the APRS.
were you the one that told me the story of how that tower site came to be? Okay. Do you remember? You want to tell him, because you missed the part where he asked if anybody had any history on the site, and I think you told me some history.
This is all third hand by the time I got it.
4th and 5th hand. Well, okay, we're working on 6th hand for
The
us.
way I understand it, the state looked at the topographical map and said, here's where we want to put our antennas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they went to the guy which would have been AIX,
Yeah.
and he says, get out of here. I'm not talking to you.
Sounds
And
about right.
I believe it would be Warren Amfar would have said, let me talk to him. And they offered to put an amateur radio repeater
Yeah.
on, and that was what turned AIX over.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is third hand to me. So
Nope, that lines up with most of the history we got too. Which then again, that cabinet that had the 6-7 markings on it, I think that was always the amateur side that they had kind of negotiated in and putting up, along with the state provided, relay station stuff.
as long as I'm talking, maybe you don't want to go into this. I'm just a little curious on what your costs are.
Right now, pretty minimal. Our internet connection gets bundled in with a qualified cell phone line, so we're able to kind of ride the whole $35 a month for internet. I pay an extra $3 for a static IP. Power and electric and stuff like that's still covered for us for now. So even
The
then,
state's paying for the lights now.
no, the state stopped paying for the lights in the 90s. So it's still powered by the family farm. So they're still covering some of that electrical for now.
And your hard line is that pressurized? So you have a machine that's pressurizing it
No,
constantly, or
no, they're just sealed.
it's tight enough that you just have a bottle of gas and a bottle of nitrogen?
You're done.
Yeah, no,
You're done.
There's no gas.
Knock on wood, please. So far, we've not repressurized anything. What's there has been there. We've cleaned out more than anything and just readapted and moved some things around to, add and really just clean up that space. This summer, we'll probably put some gravel and rock down inside to knock down some of the grass and weed and growth and tree growth from within the side of the fence line and next to the building. And the old generator that was out there has since unsurvived. So we'll probably pull the transfer switch and some of that stuff out this summer and do some electrical work. We've kind of fathomed around the idea of maybe adding some solar or alternative power sources. Turn the 110 or 120 into a inverter that's always powered. So whether we're running on battery or we're running on house power, or running on solar, we'll kind of turn the shack into a giant UPS, if you will. That way all the 120 stuff that's in there is alive regardless. And then to charge those batteries, we can either charge them with house power, we can charge them with solar, drag the generator out there and charge them back up if I need to, but the building essentially just becomes a big giant UPS.
I think that's it. Well, thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate the chance to get out here. Thank you.